2024, thus elevating the importance of discussing BRI and its implementation in Nepal. Belt and Road Initiative is Chinese President Xi Jinping's initiative for a global community of shared future. It carries forward the spirit of the ancient Silk Route. The BRI white paper published in 2023 states that BRI is a Chinese proposal but one belonging to the world and aims to address the growing peace, development, security, and governance deficit. It operates under the principles of extensive consultation, joint contribution, and win-win cooperation for in-depth policy coordination, infrastructure connectivity, efficient trade, financial integration, and people-to-people ties. President Xi once called BRI the project of the century, which may have been an understatement given the scale. So far, more than 150 nations have joined the initiative and are at different stages of implementing BRI. More than $1 trillion has already been invested in BRI projects, and the number will only go up from there. Nepal signed the MOU on BRI in May 2017, envisioning cooperation in infrastructure, trade, investment, and people-to-people connectivity. In 2019, Nepal and China exchanged state visits of the head of states. Chinese President Xi Jinping paid a historic state visit to Nepal, the first Chinese president to do so in 23 years, elevating the bilateral ties to strategic partnership of cooperation featuring everlasting friendship for development and prosperity. The first point of the joint statement made during his visit states that Nepal and China take BRI as an opportunity to jointly pursue common prosperity, conduct feasibility study for the construction of cross-border railway, and develop connectivity via ports, roads, railways, aviation, and communication under the overarching framework of the Trans-Himalayan Multidimensional Connectivity Network. The visit led to optimism about the extensive cooperation and development in China-Nepal relations. However, the implementation of many of those agreements has been delayed. After 7 years, in December 2024, Nepal and China finally signed the BRI framework agreement during the visit of Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli to Beijing. This has now paved the way for further negotiation on specific projects and funding modality for the actual implementation of projects. In Nepal, some see BRI as a magic pill that would transform Nepal's development. Some others view it with some caution. Therefore, we felt a need to study the matter and analyze the prospects and challenges of implementing BRI in Nepal. To do so, we conducted more than 55 interviews with Nepali policymakers, experts, former policymakers, some Chinese experts, and local stakeholders in Timure. We also went for a 3-day field visit to the Timure-Kerung border point to observe the current state of infrastructure and understand local perspectives. Besides, we conducted a survey of 173 people, which included Nepal's foreign, economic, and security elites between January 1 and February 2, 2025. Some of the survey results have been shared with you, and you can find them in the package that is handed over to you. The study analyzed the prospects and challenges in BRI implementation in economic, financial sense, in strategic ways, bilaterally, politically, and administratively. First, every 3 out of 4 survey respondents identified that Nepal would benefit primarily from the infrastructure connectivity and trade and investment opportunity. Nepal's poor infrastructure, be it in all forms of transportation or otherwise, does not need explanation. During our visit to Timure too, we are surprised to see the sorry state of the way linking Timure to Rasuagadi that barely qualifies as a road, let alone an highway to conduct international trade. A Chamber of Nepali Industries report in 2019 identified that Nepal needed 16 to 20 billion USD per year in infrastructure spending in 4 sectors alone. That includes energy, transport, water sanitation, and urban development to achieve the SDG goals. That is roughly half of Nepal's GDP. However, Nepal's own financing capabilities are limited. Nepal had budgeted around $2.5 billion in capital expenditure this fiscal year. In the first 8 months, less than a quarter of that budget has been used, which is about $600 million. Other financing sources, such as aid, with a target of $2 billion in 2024-25, with loan accounting for about 4/5 of the target. Clearly, there is a massive investment gap in Nepal, hindering Nepal's economic growth and development. The trend in aid and government revenue indicates that external support is critical, with doubts over projects such as the MCC and the likelihood of further decline in aid, especially from the West, due to change in policy or money diverted towards their own security or Ukraine. Nepal's LDC graduation in 2026, the alternatives has to be sought. The BRI offers one such opportunity. China has the financial resources, interest, and the capacity to make such an investment in Nepal. However, it is critical to understand that BRI is not China aid. The framework agreement states aid financing modality potential BRI projects will be under some form of loan. While debt trap diplomacy has gained some currency among BRI detractors, it has to be noted that the most controversial and failed projects in countries such as Sri Lanka and Malaysia were initiated not by China but by the recipient government in pursuit of domestic political agenda. Their debt distress has not arisen predominantly from granting of predatory Chinese loans, but rather from the misconduct of local elites. However, the cases clearly caution against selecting projects based on political calculus and choose projects based on national necessity, priority, and financial prudence. Even our survey shows that 2/3 of the respondents believe that if Nepal faces financial distress, the likely cause will be internal, such as corruption, poor project selection, and time overruns. Only a quarter identified potentially high interest rate as a major cause of concern for debt distress under BRI. Developing connectivity and infrastructure projects without developing ancillary industries, promoting production and employment would not benefit Nepal much. We need to build connectivity to trade, not merely to ease imports from China, but to trade more with China. Despite Beijing's insistence to the contrary, many see BRI as a geopolitical strategy to create a new Sino-centric order. Nepali elites seem to have similar view. The previous one. When asked to describe BRI as a developmental or strategic initiative, 60% of the respondents choose to describe it as a strategic initiative. Nepal's southern neighbor definitely sees BRI as an attempt to increase Chinese presence in South Asia. India has not joined BRI and has pushed Nepal not to join BRI. When Nepal signed the framework agreement, many Indian media, which often represents the establishment views, though in exaggerated ways, saw it as Nepal choosing China over India and with India's loss of influence in Nepal. It is true that if trade with China or through China becomes competitive, it lessens Nepal's dependency on India and makes Nepal a truly land-linked country, decreasing the leverage that India holds over Nepal's economy. Currently, about 90% of Nepal's trade is with India or via India. Better connectivity in the north will challenge such Indian monopoly. Thus, Nepal has to negotiate a delicate balance. However, there are reasons to be optimistic. Though India has not joined BRI, it is the largest beneficiary of AIIB, a China-led Asian infrastructure investment bank. And China is the largest trading partner for India as well, implying that New Delhi is not against Chinese fund or trade itself. However, Nepal has to ensure that the legitimate Indian concerns are not compromised with improved connectivity with China. The implementation or delay in implementation of BRI holds the potential to reshape Nepal-China relations as well. BRI has been among the top priorities for every visiting Chinese delegations to Nepal. Frustration and, to an extent, disillusionment is building in Beijing over repeated promises and failure to take concrete action by Nepal. China is also desperate to show progress in its neighborhood, that too in a friendly neighbor that is in its backyard. This has led to some unnecessary scenarios, such as the claim and counterclaim if the Pokhara International Airport is a BRI project. Such rhetorical debate exposes the tension between the two sides and creates mistrust among leaders and public. Given that CCP has included BRI in its constitution and is a guiding strategy to Chinese foreign policy, the way BRI is implemented in Nepal will affect Nepal-China relations. We should not assume that BRI only defines Nepal-China relations, but it is a critical component. Next, BRI affects Nepal's politics and vice versa. No major party are against BRI, though some differences exist over the model of cooperation. The current coalition, for instance, had some differences but was able to sign framework agreement. Yet, they showed some diplomatic immaturity upon return, indicating that BRI remains a political issue as well. BRI is not unique in this case. Every major development project, irrespective of funding source, has been politicized in Nepal. The MCC is a prime example, or hydroelectricity projects changing hands with change in government. Thus, BRI won't be an exception in this case either. The conditionalities of BRI will likely be a political issue, with parties exploiting it for political scoring. Similarly, the absence of a stable government and a reliable political partner was a challenge for BRI. Already, the short-listed projects have raised concern. For China, it will be a concern if anti-Chinese sentiments are festered as a result of politicization of BRI or failure of some projects for any reason. Almost half of the survey respondents identify the lack of consensus among political parties to be the most pressing challenge for BRI implementation. If BRI project succeeds, it would be seen as a success of Nepal. But if it fails, finger will also be pointed at Beijing as much as towards Nepal. Finally, a whopping 84% of respondents think that Nepal's preparation for BRI is insufficient. Not surprisingly, almost half of the respondents also believe that proper selection of projects, which is part of the preparation, and other forms of preparation is critical for successful implementation of BRI. However, Nepal's weak institutions and institutionalization are major issues. Nepal has a poor record of cost and time overruns in almost every major infrastructure project, with allegations of corruption being a common theme. For personal or political gain, some Chinese attempt to engage Nepal's bureaucracy has sometimes met with indifference and delay. For instance, one department was reportedly contacted by the Chinese side more than 2,000 times, but the department failed to respond to any of the letters sent by the Chinese. BRI Framework Agreement emphasizes on negotiation. The term itself is used 8 times in the agreement. However, Nepal's expertise in negotiation, technically or politically, has been wanting. In some cases, even the Chinese say that Nepal has not raised the issue it should have raised, either because it was not prepared or had an inferiority complex. In this context, rules and bureaucracy has often been used as tools of control rather than to promote efficiency. And age. It is and should be led by Nepal, and unless Nepal itself is ready for BRI, BRI will not be implemented successfully. Taking the lessons from failed projects in some other countries, Nepal should understand that often the cause of failure is domestic, with political calculus affecting project selection. While BRI is a developmental opportunity for Nepal, it will have strategic implications, and Nepal has to assure its other partners that it will not be against their legitimate interests. Rather than aim for mouth-watering mega projects, Nepal should prioritize a smaller and impactful project to start with. Once such projects succeed, Nepal can then move on to other projects. Nepal should also move beyond the idea that development has to come in form of grants only. Insisting on grants shows either our dependent mentality or a lack of confidence that our BRI projects we are contemplating are not financially prudent, both of which do not bode well for us. Beijing, meanwhile, should not pick favorites and engage every stakeholder in Nepal. In doing so, Beijing should be ready for all criticism that comes its way should there be any issues in BRI in Nepal. But it may not get as much appreciation if the initiative succeeds. Therefore, Beijing will be watched keenly. But clearly, the onus for success or failure of BRI or the development of Nepal in general starts and primarily ends within Nepal's borders. Therefore, I'd like to end this by expressing hope that BRI could not only help Nepal's development, but further better relations between the two nations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paudel, for highlighting the findings of the research that has been conducted, and also sharing with us some of the challenges for the implementation of the BRI. In particular, looking at your presentation, 73% of the people in Nepal, with the survey that was done, seems to be somewhat familiar with the BRI, and so it is quite optimistic to the benefits that it brings to Nepal. Now, I would like to invite His Excellency Chen Song, Ambassador of the People's Republic of China to Nepal, for his presentation. May I also request the audience to please be a little bit quiet and listen carefully, and also be a bit silent.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Distinguished Right Honorable Speaker Deborah Jimri, Distinguished Honorable Former Prime Minister Jalana Kanal, Distinguished President of the Foundation for Peace, Development and Socialism, Dr. Pao Krishna Man Singh, and my distinguished professors from China, from Nepal, ladies and gentlemen, friends, a very good morning and namaste. First of all, I'd like to congratulate on the convening of this first session of Kashmanda Dialogue, I hope I pronounce right, on the BRI Miss Nepal, a prosperous future of Nepal-China cooperation. I want to congratulate on the Foundation for Peace, Development and Socialism for organizing this very important seminar, dialogue. And I'm deeply honored to be invited as a speaker on this occasion. And thank you for the Dr. Santosh Sharma Padar for his sharing of the survey of Nepalese people's view on the BRI. It provided a lot of insights and also make today's dialogue even more relevant. Still, I found that after over a decade of introduction of BRI, after 8 years after Nepal signed the MOU, 3 months after Nepal signed the implementation framework agreements, there's still a lot of misunderstanding or doubts about the BRI in Nepal's community, society, and the people, which make today's seminar even more important and relevant. I know there are many discussions in the past regarding BRI. I know my colleagues from China and Nepal, they will discuss the principles, the projects, the histories of BRI. So today, I want to take the discussion to a new level. So I will share more information on the significance of BRI to Nepal. So today, my speech, the topic would be why BRI matters to Nepal. So you will not heard about the previous discussions about the principles, the major projects under the BRI, how Nepal can benefiting. But I want to provide you with a strategic vision of why BRI is so important. It matters to Nepal, not only matters to Nepal, but matters to the future prosperity of Nepal. So today I will start my presentation. We all know that the BRI, the main area for cooperation is infrastructure. But why this infrastructure is important, what the BRI, by signing to the BRI, can bring to Nepal. BRI is public goods provided by China to the world. It's not a strategic tour, but it's an invitation for countries to link to a network, to co-develop, to co-prosper. So that's number one. Why China have this confidence to connecting all the countries 150 countries logged into the BRI, because China now is leading in global infrastructure connectivity and trades. So next slide, please. I'll just share with you a few facts and the figures, and you will figure out the significance by yourselves. China's high-speed rail has exceeded 48,000 kilometers, which makes it over 60% of the global total in 2024. China's highway mileage exceeded 177,000 kilometers, and which is world's largest. China's highway tunnels, we have over 24,000 tunnels, total length exceeding 27,000 kilometers. And over the 10 largest global ports, China has 7, which is Shanghai, Ningbo, Zhoushan, Shenzhen, etc., by the cargo volume that is traded. So what by mentioning this, what I mean that China's infrastructure is leading the world. We are at the core of the international infrastructure connectivity. So by linking to China, you have opened a new way for connectivity. And also for the very complicated infrastructure developments in Nepal, China has every technology to help Nepal to build your infrastructure and connect it to the world. Make Nepal from a land-linked country making Nepal from a landlocked country to a land-linked countries. By linking to this world-class infrastructure, you can open new chapters for trade opportunities. In 2024, China's foreign trade volume has exceeded 43.85 trillion RMB, which is the largest in the world. And we have over 150 countries whose largest trading partner is China. But unfortunately, Nepal is not one of them. That is a puzzle. When I arrived in Nepal, the first puzzle I faced. Why Nepal, as a close friend, a close neighbor of China, its largest trading partner is not China. Countries as far as in Latin America, the largest trading partner is China. So I see potentials, huge potentials for Nepal to tap into these trading opportunities with China. And also in terms of global tourism market share, China has 10%. The Chinese people traveling overseas. Before COVID, in 2019, we have 155 million people traveling to the world. Now we have recovered to